brand new attraction is coming to Epcot 94. It's called Innoventions, and it focuses on all the new technology that's just about to improve our lives, expand our horizons, and fuel our imagination.
Since their creation of audio animatronics in 1961, Disney has been constantly innovating the technology to be able to create better animatronics. Nowadays, we can see that some fantastic animatronics have been created, but we can't forget the ones that paved the way so we could have the marvels that we see today. That's why we'll take a look at 5 amazing animatronics that are currently retired. Thank you for all the support and your comments and suggestions. And don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you can become part of our notification squad. Smart 1, Communicore. Before Innoventions replaced it, Communicore was the place to visit if you wanted to take a look at the future. Here you could explore many hands-on exhibits using the new exciting touchscreen technology, and you could also have a chat with Smart 1. Who was Smart 1, you may ask? Well, he was an interactive audio animatronic robot that guests could talk to through a telephone. He served as a great demonstration of the newest voice recognition technology, allowing him to interact with guests by conducting some simple question and answer games. These fun interactive trivia games made Smart 1 stand out among all the other exhibitions that Communicore offered guests. After all, it's not every day that you can talk to a cute little robot. After a while, in an effort to keep Epcot updated, Communicore was closed and it became Innoventions, a more eccentric, wild, and corporate-driven take on a science and technology pavilion. We lost Smart 1 in the process, but he was not entirely retired. He was relocated to the Concourse Steakhouse at Disney's Contemporary Resort, where he was renamed X1846 and reprogrammed to serve as an interactive greeter that could also serve drinks. Sadly, in 2000, he suffered an accidental fall that caused minor damage, and this led to some technical malfunctions, so he was retired and sold. Alec Tronic, Innoventions West.
Innoventions is a kind of a word that combines invention and innovation. It's actually the new core of Epcot Center at Walt Disney World in Florida, and it really deals with the near future. What's going to happen to all of us in our lives tomorrow, next month, next year, but not 20 years out.
Since it was created, Innoventions tried to replicate what once was the World's Fair.
150 years, people have flocked to World's Fairs and expositions to get their first glimpse of new technology.
And show people the latest technology. The idea was that brands like AT&T, GE, GM, Motorola, and more would bring exhibitions where they would show their newest products, and with this, show guests how technology kept and would keep changing in the years to come.
Almost every company that's involved with Innoventions is the leading company in its field. So when you have General Motors, you have the leading car company. When you have AT&T, you have the leading phone company. When you have Sega, you have the leading game company. You know, we have tried to get only those companies that excel in their fields.
Innoventions opened in 1994 at Walt Disney World, replacing the now outdated Communicore. It was divided into 2 sections, East and West. In the East section, we could find Apple, General Electric, General Motors, and other exhibitions. But today we'll be focusing on the West section, which was the most popular among guests because here we could find exhibitions like the Sega one, where we could take a look at the future of video games.
Visitors at the Innoventions Sega display are really going to see the future from Sega.
Or the Electronics exhibition, where we could find the latest gadgets, some of which were not even being sold yet. The main and most impressive attraction of this exhibition was Alec Tronic. He was one of the most advanced animatronics at that time. Imagineers decided not to use any type of covering for this animatronic.
A character put together in a way most people have never seen it, without the skin, so that you can see all of the inner workings and mechanics that make it happen, the thousands of moving parts that are generally not seen by the public. in an exciting and dynamic environment that I think most people will find memorable.
Before the show began, we could see that Alec Tronic was in his off position, and in a few seconds, his sequence started and the show began.
Thank you. Hey, it's really great to be here. Actually, I have to be here because I'm bolted to the floor.
Alec introduced himself and welcomed us. There were also 3 other animatronic heads that joined him, and they all interacted with each other during the show. The whole presentation was based on these animatronics and how they were the most advanced in the world, and they demonstrated this with some gags and musical acts. The show ended when Alec said goodbye with a glitch and went back to his off position. Alec Tronic was voiced by Bill Farmer, who voices Goofy. This made the character more friendly to guests who could be scared of it at first. In 1999, Innoventions had a major renovation for the park's Millennium Celebration and added the subtitle, The Road to Tomorrow. This made it much easier to walk through because the road helped guests to have a more structured way of seeing every exhibition available. During this renovation, Alec Tronic was retired and recycled so he could become Tom Morrow at Disneyland, where Innoventions opened in 1998. We've talked about him before, so if you want to learn more about it, click here. Nowadays, he hangs out at the Collector's Fortress, or at least his head does. Otto, 2009's D23. Otto was the first autonomous animatronic. He was created so he could be presented in 2009's D23. Autonomatronics technology is different from audio animatronics technology. Audio animatronics technology repeats a pre-programmed show over and over again. Autonomatronics technology is driven by sophisticated cameras and sensors, giving Otto the ability to make choices about what to say and do. He could see, listen, and interpret emotions thanks to a sophisticated facial recognition system. Automatronics know when you enter and leave a room, and how you react to it. This technology was first shown at the D23 Expo in 2009. The demonstration consisted of showing Otto and how the latest technology that was used to make him worked. The hosts of this presentation were GLaDOS. No, not that GLaDOS.
Hello!
Oh, it's you.
You know her?
It's been a long time.
But an animatronic parrot and Otto. At the beginning of the presentation, Otto started feeling a bit insecure because of all the people that were there, but GLaDOS kept encouraging him and helping him regain his confidence.
Whoa! People! Lots of people! Too many people! Turn on the lights! Turn on the lights! Gladys, I can't do this! There are like 25 people out there!
It's okay, kid. Calm down. It's still the morning and we got a long day ahead of us. Bring up the lights. It's showtime.
No. Hey!
He asked Otto to introduce himself and demonstrate his abilities. He asked Otto if he thinks the people are enjoying themselves. When Otto asked how he could know that, GLaDOS told him to take a look and see if they were smiling. So Otto starts looking for smiling faces, and after he recognized them, he starts regaining his confidence.
All right, now Otto, are the people enjoying themselves?
How can I tell?
Well, is anyone out there smiling? Well, take a closer look.
Okay. Hey, Gladys, I found a face!
Good. And is that face smiling?
Well, let's see. Hey, they are smiling!
Great. And how does that make you feel?
Better!
Next, GLaDOS tells Otto to demonstrate his hearing abilities, so he chose a member of the public as a volunteer and asked them their name and favorite color. Using a microphone, Otto repeated the volunteer's name and favorite color, changing his bow tie's color. During the last part of the presentation, Otto took a picture of the audience and then showed it to everyone. Sadly, Otto was never used in any Disney park ride or attraction, and he was retired after the D23 Expo. But he was the first Autonomatronic created, and thanks to him, some other Autonomatronics made their way to the Disney parks. No one knows the reason why Disney hasn't used this technology more until now. But we do know that Mr. Lincoln was changed to an Autonomatronic in 2009, and we can find 3 of these in the Collector's Fortress. As soon as we enter the building, there are 3 creatures named Vilus. These creatures are equipped with sensors and cameras that allow them to react in a different and autonomous way to each guest. Maybe we'll get to see more Autonomatronics in the future. Harold, Matterhorn Bobsleds. The Matterhorn Bobsleds opened 60 years ago on June 14th. It was the first tubular steel coaster in the world. For many years, the interior of the ride was filled with poles, supports, and metal structures. There were many holes in its exterior so the bobsleds could exit and re-enter the mountain. But the ride was not themed at all. The infrastructure was disguised as rock, and that was it. Then, almost 20 years later in 1978, the ride received its first major refurbishment, and the interior of the mountain was filled in. Imagineers made a number of small icy caves and tunnels, but the biggest addition to the ride was Harold. The intimidating abominable snowman took up residence inside the mountain as an audio animatronic figure and glowing red eyes encountered throughout the journey. According to the Disney Mountains, Imagineering at its peak, plans existed for Harold to be installed as part of the original 1959 attraction, but budget crunches and scheduling deadlines led the concept to be shelved for a while. Harold was added 3 times throughout the ride in the form of 3 animatronic figures. The first is visible from both tracks at the point where they divide to take separate paths, while the other 2 are visible only from their respective tracks. The Matterhorn was refurbished a few times after that in 1992 when the Skyway closed, and the holes in the Matterhorn were partially filled, or the glimmering crystals and the Wells Expedition crate at the beginning of the ride were added, or in 2012, when it closed for a 6-month refurbishment which added a new outside fixture of the mountains and new trains with different restraints. But then, in 2015, for Disneyland's 60th anniversary, Harold was replaced with an even angrier and more lifelike version.
Here at the Matterhorn, we've added new animatronic snowmen and some other special effects scenes, and we're thinking that this will be a great addition, especially that it's coinciding with the Diamond Celebration at the Disneyland Resort.
This new version is a big improvement from the classic Yeti figure. And of course, during this refurbishment, we lost the original Harold. He was nowhere to be seen for a while, but then, on May 27, 2017, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout opened. In this ride, we enter the Collector's Fortress, and we can see the huge collection of artifacts that he has. And surprisingly, the original Harold is one of them. He can be seen just before you enter the ride in the queue. Various animatronics meet the world. Meet the World was one of the opening day attractions at Tokyo Disneyland in 1983. Located in Tomorrowland, Meet the World was an 18-minute chronicle of Japan's history of diplomacy and trade with other countries. Officially, it invited you to explore Japan's heritage on an incredible time travel adventure. The format was a rotating circular theater, similar to Carousel of Progress in Disney World. There were 4 parts to the show, and after each part, the seating area would slowly rotate 90 degrees to point the audience in the direction of the next stage. The guide was an animated talking crane who led 2 curious children from Yokohama on a time travel journey, complete with representations of prominent Japanese and Western figures from the history books. She took them to explore the ancient Jomon people and the difficult relationship they encountered with the sea and the land. Then to the area of Prince Shotoku, and his efforts to meet the world. She also took them to explore Tanegashima, where Portuguese traders met with locals, introducing Japan to trade opportunities as well as the outside world. They also entered Japan's dark days, but the crane reassured the 2 children that those days have ended, and that Japan now led the way of today. A final montage of Japan's modern accomplishments brought the show to a close, as the children and the crane soared to the skies on a hot air balloon. The attraction had over 30 animatronic figures, 9 70mm projections, and 15 large pieces of show action equipment. The Meet the World song was written by the Sherman Brothers. The attraction was designed by WED Enterprises Imagineer Claude Coates. The figures were sculpted by Blaine Gibson, with the exception of the 3 Meiji figures, who were sculpted in Glendale by a Japanese sculptor from Toho Studios in Tokyo. But then, on June 30th, 2002, the attraction closed forever to be replaced by Monsters Inc. Ride and Go Seek, and these animatronics were retired forever. Nobody knows what happened to them, but we hope these pieces of history are safe and sound at the Disney archives. The Bride, the Haunted Mansion. Since the beginning, the Haunted Mansion has been a mix of stories and concepts that work together perfectly. Every story and character in this ride had been created by the most famous Imagineers in Disney history. With the pass of time, the mansion had small and big changes, but one of the characters that has suffered the most changes is the Bride. The first sketch of the Bride was created by Ken Anderson, who based it on the picture of the Brown Lady of Raymond Hall. This picture was taken in 1936 and is one of the most famous ghost pictures of all time. After a while, when Mark Davis took over the project, he changed Anderson's concept, giving the character a clearer style, a darker face, and a cat. But in 1968, he decided to change his own concept and change the cat for a dog and the bride's face to a complete black space with shiny red eyes. He called this new concept Beating Heart. Then, when he was sculpting the character, he changed her again and gave her a kind of Grim Reaper style. The problem with this new design was that the bride didn't look like a bride at all, and the idea of a bride had been in the Haunted Mansion plan since the beginning. So Davis decided to go back to his ghostly bride design. When Haunted Mansion opened in 1969, the Beating Heart Bride was located where we can now see the piano ghost. She was only there for a month or two, because when the Hatbox Ghost was removed, she was changed to his old spot. But the bride not only changed her whereabouts, she also suffered some major design changes. Her face and eyes were changed many times, and so was her dress. In 2006, the attic scene received a major overhaul, and with this change, the Beating Heart Bride was retired and Constance was in her place. What happened to the Beating Heart Bride? Well, she was safely taken to the Disney Archives, and was even on display in the Treasures of Walt Disney Archives exhibit, presented by D23, at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Museum and Library from July 6, 2012 to April 2013. Which of these would you like to bring back? Let us know in the comments. Thank you so much to all our Patreons for making this and every video possible. And don't forget, if you're planning on visiting any animatronic that hasn't been retired yet, our friends at pixievacations.com can help you plan your perfect vacation to Disneyland, Disney World, or a Disney cruise specifically tailored to your vacation style and budget. And working with a Pixie is completely free. So talk with them to make the best out of your Disney vacation.